What's up, everyone? Welcome into the All-22 NFL Show, the official podcast of the All-22 fantasy football platform. It's the only fantasy football game with full 53-man rosters, including offensive linemen, where you get to choose personal packages and have access to PFF grading and advanced stats to make decisions each week. To learn more and sign up, go to all-22.com. And Ray, we just did pick pool. It is now officially the first round is over. Signups are done for this year, but guess what? We will be back next year doing the same thing. But Ray, I think there's going to be a lot of new stuff that we're going to be developing with Pickpool. So people, stay in touch. Maybe go follow us on Twitter, the Pickpool Twitter account. There's going to be a lot more that's going to be there. So we're excited to share more with you. But thank you, everyone that did sign up. It was tremendous. We had like 5,000 different mock drafts submitted. So it was a really cool turnout and just made the event that much more fun. But Ray, the first round itself is second Christmas to us. I mean, we get together, you, me, and Bobby, every single year, lock ourselves in there. Computers are open at the table as if we're American Idol judges, just judging every single pick. But we're also doing work, right? Like we have pick pool going on, we have all-22 going on. A lot of things to take note of. Very exciting time for us.
Yeah. Christmas in the spring is awesome. And it was a unique first round, which you kind of thought going in, right? There was a lot of shaking and baking, a lot of moves, and it wasn't quite as cut and dry as maybe some people expected, but also in recent years, you kind of expected it not to be. We expected some twists and turns because there wasn't a lot of consensus outside of, hey, there's like five or six awesome defensive players that should all go in the top 10 ish or so. And then outside of that, there's a lot that could happen, and a lot did happen.
Absolutely. And let's jump into it. Let's just go pick by pick. We'll talk about it. I think first pick, we knew it was coming. Fernando Mendoza to the Las Vegas Raiders. Not a surprise to me. I think my only concern, if I was to judge the Raiders, if I was the GM of the team, I would have tried to trade back into the first round. I think the Jets got a steal. We'll talk about that later, getting Omar Cooper Jr. as late as they did. Fernando Mendoza's teammate was Omar Cooper Jr. They have a second round pick. They could have made that jump and gone and got a player like that to match with him. Right now, the receivers are kind of light there in Oakland, right? I would have liked to seen something a little bit more. But Ray, I'm not the David Bailey guy. What did you think of pick 2, New York Jets getting David Bailey?
Oh, maybe they listened to the show and liked what I had to say. Uh, I would have went Arvell Reese, but I totally get why they would go David Bailey. I think even as of today, he is the more. And while this isn't his game as far as being the most polished pass rusher, he is a more polished pass rusher than Arvell Reese. He's going to impact the game sooner, and you know exactly what you're going to get with him. He's got all the high level traits you need. There's no reason not to take David Bailey at 2 unless you just thought that you liked Arvell Reese a little bit better. But I think David Bailey checks all the physical boxes. He just has to tighten up some things in the run game, a little bit more consistent. But what are coaches for? He's still just 21, 22 years old. Premier pass rushers, you can't let them slide. They got the sure premier guy in David Bailey. I think it was pretty cut and dry for them, and they weren't looking to get cute.
Yeah, so I have a completely different take, which is that I don't think he's a premier pass rusher. I think the Jets needed to get a premier pass rusher, and they chose somebody that I don't think is there yet, right? Doesn't mean he can't develop into it. I think the one thing that maybe I didn't account for as much as maybe I should have is just the bounty of picks that the Jets have over this year and next year, where while I think they do need premier players, and maybe I don't think David Bailey is one, they have enough ammo where they can add so much talent to this team where maybe getting a guy like David Bailey in a group of other prospects is going to be advantageous to them. So we'll see. Jeremiah Love at 3 is really a conversation point. I'll talk about this one to start it off, but just again, as the GM of the team, you don't really love your entire offensive line. You don't have a quarterback yet, and your defense is kind of a mess outside of maybe just your defensive front. Going running back seems like an odd choice for them. It seems like they had a pretty high asking price for teams that wanted to move up, and they just weren't willing to pull the trigger, right? But I mean, even if you move down 2 spots and you get a guy like Arvell Reese and you get a 3rd or 4th round pick in return over a running back, I don't know. It just seems weird to me. I think from an all-22 perspective as well, right? Really excited about Jeremiah Love, but now in a rookie draft, 1, it's a running back, and 2, he's now behind an offensive line with many holes and a quarterback situation that just doesn't give you much excitement or promise. I don't feel good about Jeremiah Love going to the Cardinals at all.
Yeah, there's the whole, running back positional value situation. And real quick to touch on that, I think you had mentioned this to me offline. He's got like the most guaranteed money of any running back now, like in the league, Jeremiah Love,
Yep.
or close to
He's the
it.
highest
Yeah.
paid running back in the NFL.
Yeah. That's crazy because he's not the best running back in the NFL. And yeah, he's already the highest paid back in the NFL. That is wild, and that's something you have to consider when you're taking who you're drafting in the top 3, top 5, top 6 ish. Is money is a part of that equation. That's one thing, but then the second thing is just timing of drafting a running back. Running backs have short lifespan, even the best ones, okay? A quarterback, if they're great, can play until they're 38 years old, right? 36, 38 years old. A running back, if they're great, can play till 28 years old. And then they're pretty much done with very rare exceptions. Like there's maybe 2 in the league right now. They don't have a quarterback. They're going to get a young quarterback at some point. I'm sorry, is that quarterback going to be ready to compete for championships in year 1 and 2, which would then be year 2 and 3 for Jeremiah Love? Now you're already looking at the back half of Jeremiah Love's career by the time you get a quarterback in there and a roster worthy enough to possibly compete for the playoffs and beyond. Not to even mention the division that they're in. They're so far away from contention. You don't take a running back when you are miles away from any type of postseason contention, let alone championship aspirations. Jeremiah Love is a fine pick. He's a phenomenal player. He's arguably one of the top 3 best players in the draft, and that might be underselling it. But the fit is horrible, even just from a timing perspective, let alone everything else with the roster.
I think that the Cardinals will be drafting 1 overall next year. And the issue I have with that is I don't know if Arch Manning, who is the projected number 1 pick, is going to say that he's willing to play for the Arizona Cardinals. So that's going to be a really interesting thing to kind of keep track of. But my favorite pick of the entire top 5, Ray, is Carnell Tate to the Titans. To me, this is a great mix of value, player, and landing spot. It's all there, right? We have a receiver, high value position. Carnell Tate was both of our number 1 receiver pre-draft. He goes to a Titans organization that has Brian Dable now, who knows how to run an offense, doesn't have to be the head coach. He's going to look a lot better as OC. And there's a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback there in Cam Ward now, who we know can sling it, right? Like this is a great situation. Wan'Dale Robinson is a really good number 2. You have, old head playing receiver 3 too, and Ridley. So like you have a good group now. Like this is the chef's kiss for you to be able to finalize that receiving group and actually make it something that Cam Ward could work with. I like it because it made the quarterback more valuable, and I like it because Carnell Tate is a great player for that location.
Yeah, fits like a glove. Jordan Tyson got a lot of pub in the hours leading up to the draft and days leading up to the draft, but Carnell Tate, we had him as wide receiver 1 the entire process, and it was just a stand-up double at the very least for the Titans. It's a great pick.
I have a hot take on Arvell Reese, so I'm just going to do it, and I'll let you do the next few, just because I kind of have to.
Yeah, do it.
Arvell Reese was both of our, we loved him as a prospect. I had Ruben Bain higher, but I still loved Arvell Reese. Taking him at 5 overall to play linebacker, we just had that discussion about Jeremiah Love being the highest paid running back in the NFL. I don't know now where Arvell Reese's contract stands with linebackers, but I'd say it's pretty darn close to him being the highest paid inside linebacker in the NFL today. That's honestly okay because I think he's that talented, right? Like I'm not super worried about the talent taking too much time to develop in the NFL, but this is a team that had needs all over the roster, and a guy that wanted to play edge, you're now telling him that that's not where he's going to be playing, seems a little weird, right? I think it could work out great. I love the player. I love John, the coach there in New York. But I just hope that the personality works and he's okay saying, okay, I'm not going to be an edge rusher here. It's a little concerning to me, especially, like I said, he's now one of the highest paid linebackers in the NFL.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd fit if you thought he was most valuable as a pass rusher, which, I mean, just consensus, even regardless of how great of a linebacker he is. If you thought he was most valuable as an edge rusher, well, you're kind of capping that because you have Abdul Carter and Brian Burns there for the foreseeable future. So you can get creative and all that fun stuff, but he's not lining up at edge every play. That is diminishing his value a little bit. So, but great player, and he's going to help that defense. But like you said, they got holes elsewhere and they need a lot of work. So that leaves the Chiefs trading up to 6 for Mansour Delane, the corner out of LSU. I feel like this is like you're still supposed to do that part, but whatever. I just kind of hijacked it.
No,
I
go
think it's
to.
pretty straightforward. Yeah. If you remove Jermod McCoy because of the clear knee issues, okay, that we've been kind of, or at least I've been harping on for weeks, that hey, this knee thing, man, making me uncomfortable. Wasn't even drafted in the first round. So with that in mind, Mansour Delane, the clear-cut number one cornerback in the draft. Chiefs lost Trent McDuffie. The player comp is actually pretty similar, so he kind of fits right in and picks up where he left off. Contract savings for the Chiefs compared to a large contract for someone like McDuffie fits like a glove. Yes, offensive line, receiver, and everything else for the Chiefs that people were worried about, but they needed help in the secondary and they got it.
They did, and I think it's a great fit, a great player for that situation. I do think he fits. He fits into that defense like a glove. I like it for them a lot, and again, from an all-22 GM perspective, this is a player now that increased in value in my book. I think this is definitely a step up for him. Sonny Styles, linebacker, goes to Washington. Another good fit. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense. The only concern I have is they still don't really have the edge rushing powers to go after the quarterback that I really expected them to pursue. Sonny Styles now being a linebacker, it's great, but like if you don't have guys getting to the quarterback, your job gets a lot harder, right? The cornerbacks' jobs get harder, safeties and linebackers. And linebackers, the hardest position to play on a defense. It just got harder for Sonny Styles. I love the player. I like the situation enough, but I really expected them to add some edge power. And I'm worried that it's just going to be hard in the pass game for him.
Yeah, and they're going to say, well, Sonny Styles can rush the passer. He's got edge rusher size and he can blitz and he's great. Yeah, that's supposed to be a cherry on top. That's a supplement. That is not the core of your pass rush plan. If it is, you've already lost. So I'll just say that much. But this was a +3 for me in pick pool. I had it the whole way. So I'll take it. It is a great player, but like you said, they still need work at on the outside there.
Go ahead. Go next. Tell us about Jordan Tyson and what you think of
Jordan Tyson. So you actually called this one. So yeah, Jordan Tyson to the Saints. Great player. But now you got another wide receiver with injury concerns. And as great as the year that Chris Olave had in 2025, he's still one hit away from everybody yet again wondering, is this guy even going to have a future in football given his concussion history? So you kind of support that, mitigate that, whatever you want to call it, with a wide receiver who now is also just always injured, like just got healthy maybe the last couple of weeks from, some nagging injuries from the previous fall. Yeah, if it works, it's great that you have these two awesome receivers, but you said it, injured players in college get injured in the NFL. This guy was always injured, and they're already number one top target in Chris Olave is always missing games, even though it's not his fault. You feel bad for him with the concussion thing. You have two big risks at receiver. It's a dicey position to be in, but they're talented.
Agree with your assessment 100%. And I actually want you to keep going with Spencer Fano to the Browns at number 9.
Yeah, so Spencer Fano to the Browns. It just felt like the Browns were going to take someone like this. So they trade back a little bit, get some extra capital. That's great. Short arms. He's not the prototype tackle, but I think he is going to maybe play tackle still. I mean, they could plug him anywhere on that offensive line. Really, they just have nothing but replacement players all of a sudden when they were looking pretty good 2.5 years ago. So he could play anywhere. He's a solid lineman with great feet. And again, he performed pretty well, or held his own, I'll say, against David Bailey, the top pass rusher in this class, as evidenced by his draft position there, Chris. So I think they're just plug off versatile hole. That's it.
Yeah. And I agree. I think it makes sense for them. I had a way lower grade on him going into the draft. Landing spot definitely helps, right? Like, this is an instant start. And also, like, they think you're a foundational piece, right? Taking you here tells me, first lineman taken, that they think you're a foundational piece. So definitely stock up for Spencer Fano. I want to talk about Francis Mawanoa.
Yes.
Yeah, botch that.
They know by now. The audience knows by now. Yeah.
Francis Mawanoa. So I'm going to have another hot take here, right? Not to pick on the Giants, because I think they got two incredible players, right? but you get a guy that you're forcing to play the edge position at 5 when I think there are still 3 linebackers to be drafted in the beginning of the second round that all are very talented inside linebackers. And then I think you got an offensive tackle that you're going to be forcing to move into guard. If you think that he is really as good as Penny Sewell, or even if you think he may be like a Talise Fuanga, fine, but you're putting him at guard. And again, in the second round, at the beginning of the second round, we're talking about several offensive guard prospects that are still available that are really good guards. You have to have a significant plan in my mind to get the value that you drafted with a 5 and a 10 overall, when I think there are comparable players at those positions at the beginning of the second round still available.
Yeah, and maybe he goes to tackle in the future, right? That maybe and like I get how people don't like that, and it's kind of hard to always plan for that and so forth. And yeah, I get it, but it does work. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but Tyron Smith flipped sides after his first year in the NFL. So moving from inside to outside, it's happened before. I just think you're thankful that the Browns took Fano instead of Mawanoa. If you're the Giants, they left him there for you. So if you had him higher than this next guy, then you go ahead and take him. And that next guy being Caleb Downs, the safety out of Ohio State, going to the Dallas Cowboys, who we saw the big board. It's my best player in the entire class. I think regardless of position, just super clean prospect, no real holes in his game. And it was the last premier defensive player at a position of need that the Cowboys had. And that's why they traded up from 12 to 11 to ensure that they got him, because they just did not view Ruben Bain as part of that same tier. So instead of risking losing your guy and dealing with a huge teardrop, you trade 2 5th-round picks, come up one spot, and get, in my opinion, the best player in the entire draft, and he fills your biggest position of need and something that's been ailing you for 2 decades almost at this point in time. Chris, did you know the Cowboys didn't draft a single safety, like, at all since 2019? Like, in any round. Like, there's 7 rounds in like 6 different drafts.
The Packers drafted like 3 2 years ago.
Yeah. So over the course of like 49 rounds of the draft, they did not take a safety.
Wow.
Or maybe they took just one, like, very late. But even so, like, that's crazy.
Does that tell you maybe he's going to be playing more like nickel corner?
Oh, he will be. He will be nickel spot in Christian Parker's defense. But yeah, safety base, nickel in nickel. And yeah, he could do it all. He's super smart. This is exactly what the Cowboys had dreamed of and weren't sure was going to happen. So kudos to them.
So from a Caleb Downs stock, I think stock up, great situation to be in, right? Tremendous situation to be in. I think from a NFL GM perspective, how are you going to feel if Caleb Downs is very good, but if Ruben Bain is also very good and you passed on him and traded up to do it, how is that going to feel if he ends up being a top 12, top 10 edge rusher in the NFL?
That's what you had the second first-round pick for. Now you're jumping ahead in the draft, Chris. We still got 8 picks to go.
No, I'm just saying, man, it's like the way I predict Ruben Bain's career going, I think he's going to be really talented, right? And you guys passed on that at a very important position. I don't know. It would have made perfect sense to me to say, okay, you guys now have Ruben Bain Jr. I understand nobody replaces Michael Parsons, but at least you took a huge step in that direction instead of what we'll talk about later, which might have been one small step for mankind, right? We'll see.
Yeah, and I not to get into Jerry Jones's brain or his son Stephen Jones's brain, because that's honestly a terrifying place. But I think philosophically, based on your principles, like, I'm comfortable knowing that based on like my narrow funnel, there will be players that pan out that I miss on, and I'm more comfortable with that than really liking a guy and kind of reaching, not reaching in the sense of drafting someone too early, but investing in someone that I'm high on that then doesn't hit. I'd rather eliminate, someone or filter out someone that ends up being good than bring someone in who ends up being bad. So I think that's what helps him sleep at night. So.
Okay. That's fair. And I think I said that Jeremiah Love was my least favorite draft pick of the first round, or at least the top 5. Caden Proctor at 12 is pretty close in my mind. So Caden Proctor, tackle out of Alabama, goes to the Dolphins at pick number 12. Let me just tell you why this bothers me. Well, one, you waited till Tua was basically half, dead before you decide to add to the offensive line. I'm sure he really appreciated that, right? With a first round pick. But then think about it. You guys drafted Jonas Savanaia last year, who was a tackle that you converted to guard, and you took him in the second round, and it was a reach. And everybody's saying that Caden Proctor is a guard. And I agree. I don't even think he's a good guard, but he's a guard. He's not a tackle. He doesn't have the footwork. You took him at 12. If you're planning on kicking him inside, which I'm looking at their depth chart right now, looks like they have him at right guard. You really just used a top 12 pick on a right guard convert. Again, doesn't make sense to me to reach on a player like that early when you still don't even really have tackle figured out. The Dolphins are probably my biggest loser of the first round. I don't like it at all, man.
I'm still not sure I buy the move to the inside. I think he has to be at tackle sooner than later, and you're just going to have to – I think you have to have him at tackle and just take the home run swing and hope that it works out there. I don't really see it at guard with him. I think it has to be tackle, and you hope it's the DeJuan Jones framework, but with good health and perhaps, better shape, and that it works out that way. It was not comforting hearing Nick Saban. I don't know if you saw Nick Saban before the draft, during the draft coverage. They were asking him about him. He's like, well, yeah, Caden Proctor's the kind of guy that you worry that once he leaves camp and, they go away before training camp, that he comes back, 360 pounds or so and has to get into shape. And you're like, wait, what? Like, your coach is saying that? Like, your college coach? It's
scary.
Not comforting.
He was 400 pounds freshman year, they said. Dude, that's concerning to me. I don't like the big
Alabama when you're 400 pounds. Like, that just sounds miserable. Alabama Heat at 400 pounds.
Dude, he's going to be in Miami.
Yeah, now he's in Miami. Well, he's not 400 pounds anymore, so he's fine.
Fair.
He's fine at 357.
Okay.
Yeah, he's great.
Ty Simpson to the Rams was the biggest surprise of the draft, in my opinion. 13th overall. Interesting, right? I think value on Ty Simpson has to be skyrocketing. Most people had him as a late first, early second round pick. He goes 13 overall to the dream scenario team. He gets to learn behind Matthew Stafford. Sean McVay's his coach. Seems perfect. But Ray, then you go and hear some things about the GM being friends with his dad or something. Sean McVay not signing off on this at all. This is a little concerning. Are you willing to lose your head coach, in my opinion, a top 3 head coach in the NFL, for a quarterback that you were friends with the dad? Seems a little fishy.
Yeah, once stuff like that enters the draft process, then it becomes a problem. And the Rams, I don't think, have a lot of picks. So to use one of your limited picks on a backup quarterback, that's a problem. That's a problem. Your first round pick on your backup quarterback when your team is contending, it's rough. But then you hear that stuff about the GM and his dad, and but once that stuff enters the process, it never works out. That's Bill Parcells drafting Bobby Carpenter because he loved his dad. It doesn't end well. The Dolphins drafting Ted Ginn Jr. because they loved his dad, and it's like Ginn played a lot of years in the NFL, but never lived up to that draft selection. It typically doesn't work out when that happens, but McVay can turn garbage into gold with quarterbacks. And if you're not garbage, you just might not be gold. He can turn you into some sort of precious metal at quarterback and make it work. So it's great for Ty Simpson, but that's bad process for the Rams.
If McVay sticks around, which is what I think is very concerning about that pick. Vega Ioane at 14 to the Ravens. I think this is a perfect fit. Stock up for Vega Ioane. I don't really have much to say about it. I think it was a home run pick for them.
Yeah, people have had this one pegged for months, and I think it worked out.
Okay. Reuben Bain Jr. going to Tampa Bay, my number 1 edge. Home run pick for me. I mean, I have zero concerns. The Buccaneers needed a gift, right? They had been struggling to add talent on the defensive side of the football for a few years. Their defense had gotten really old. It was kind of like, hey, it's time to reset this thing. And they hit a home run, in my opinion.
Of course. You think that. I guess I agree. At this point, at 15, this is right around the good spot for Ruben Bain. Even if you have concerns about the arm length and everything else, that's fine. You don't want to invest top 10 or 12 in a guy like that because you're concerned about the length. Middle of the first round is exactly where it should go.
Okay. Kenyon Sadiq at 16. Ray, you lead this one.
I love it so much. No, I don't hate it. I don't love it either. Here's what I think. I think it's an odd pick given Mason Taylor, given the need at receiver, which, yes, they addressed later on. Feels a little forced to me. But also, I don't know how you could know about this after this year anyhow, because who's throwing the ball? They're not going to have a passing offense. So Wilson, all these receivers, Sadiq, I don't know how much you're going to find out about them until they have a functioning quarterback in there to actually exploit the things that they do well or accentuate the things that they do well. So this is one of those sort of upside picks and long-term projections that you're not going to know anything about until, I guess, 2027 at the earliest. So bit of an odd pick, forced pick, especially with Mason Taylor already being there. Yes, he's not in the same tier as Sadiq. I'm just not sure that I'm not sure you take that swing this early into your building process with everything else you need.
Ray, can I tell you that I've completely changed my mind on that pick? I actually think it's a great pick now. Not because I had Kenyon Sadiq as this home run hit at tight end. I don't. And when it was first made, I had the same concerns, right, that you just mentioned. But I do think that adding Omar Cooper Jr. takes so much pressure off of Kenyon Sadiq to be that number 2 weapon on that offense. Now he doesn't really have to be, and he could kind of settle. And I do think that the fact they don't have their quarterback is maybe a good thing, right? Because it's like Omar Cooper Jr. is there. That takes a lot of pressure off. They don't really have the quarterback. So next year they're going to get the quarterback. That takes a little bit of pressure off too. So next year, I think you give yourself a year to develop and get comfortable in the NFL as a tight end, which we know is really hard. And then maybe in a year or two, you're looking really good. I kind of love it now. And again, it's because the Jets have all of these picks. They can really take pressure off of individuals and start to build things. As a GM, I think it's a good process, right? You have your tight end, you have 2 stud receivers, and your offensive line is in really good shape. Insert the quarterback next year. There's no reason to fail, but it's the Jets, so it will. But there's no reason for it to fail, right? I like it. I do. I really do like it. But let's keep it moving. Blake Miller, the offensive tackle out of Clemson at 17 to the Lions. You and I talked about this one on the ride home yesterday a little bit. He's not that high for us. We didn't have either of us have him that high. I think it's a bit of a force, right? Like as a kind of all-22 analyst kind of judging some of these GMs, you hate to see that you have a need, you didn't address it in free agency, and then you have to do it in the draft. We both said it. There was 2 or 3 other guys that we had even above him. Max Ianachor, Chair, I don't know how to say his name. I'm just going to keep messing it up. Sorry, everybody out there. Monroe Freeling, like there were multiple tackles we had above Blake Miller, and they just were like, no, we got to figure this out. We need somebody that can step in and play right now. Seems a little fishy to me.
Yeah, but the Lions sometimes make that work. You think they take somebody too early, but they kind of fit him in there, and he's a little bit better than you thought. So I think that's the case here with him going to right tackle. But yeah, it's rich. It's rich for me.
The next 2 picks were my favorite picks of the teens. We'll call it the teens. So it's Caleb Banks to Minnesota, who I had as a top 5 player in this draft. He has the foot injury, so we knew that he was going to fall, right? We didn't know exactly how far. Some people were saying it was going to be the second round into the 40s. He goes at 18. I think that's kind of makes sense, right? When you start to balance the injury and how good I thought he was, that makes sense to me. And I love the landing spot for him. Defensive head coach is maybe the best defensive head coach. Defensive coordinator in the NFL, non-head coach, defensive coordinator in the NFL is there in Minnesota. I love that, right? And they add this player on a defense that has been just sneaky good for like 3 years now. It's awesome. And then Monroe Freeling going 19 to the Panthers. Ike Ekwonu being out for the year most likely. You need to replace him. But they did add a tackle in free agency to fill that spot. So again, it's not forcing the pick. They said, we like Freeling. We're going to let him develop. There's other spots that they could put him at. They could put him at the other tackle if they want to. There's plenty of possibility, but at the same time, it's not like he has to start day one and figure it out. They just said, hey, we think this is a really good player. And I think the landing spot makes a lot of sense for them.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think we can move on to the 20s.
20 is Mekhi Lemon to the Eagles. I talked about that one enough, so I'm going to let you talk about that one.
Yeah, he thought he was going to the Steelers. He was not going to the Steelers. He ended up going to the Eagles after they trade with the Cowboys. So just more fuel to the fire that A.J. Brown is going to be traded after June 1st, and they needed to get their receiver through the front door now. And they traded up to make sure that they got this receiver. So it's not as if, oh, we just, he fell to us and he was the most. No. You went up to get a wide receiver while A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are currently on your roster. So yes, A.J. Brown is gone, and it just needs to be made official in a few weeks. I like it. We like the player, but we'll see how he fits. I'm not sure he fits in well with Jalen Hurts, honestly, in that offense. I would just have to see it. I think a bigger target type should really work well with Hurts, but again, he's not going to be the focal point of opposing coverages. They have Devontae Smith there. They still have good weapons at tight end. Obviously, have a strong running game. The Eagles roster is a great fit for most incoming rookies because of the strength at nearly every position. So Mekhi Lemon can kind of develop in that sort of rookie timeline there and doesn't have to be accelerated for him, which is a good thing, even if he is technically a starter once A.J. Brown is off the roster. So good for Mekhi Lemon's sort of long-term development, I'd say. But I'm still in wait and see as to how well they're going to fit early on in that offense.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. I think this one is like, I don't think this one's a stock down. I also don't think it's really a stock up. It's kind of a hold your horses and let's see how it works. I think ultimately that offense is really good and knows how to work well. I think he's a good receiver for Jalen Hurts, in my opinion, just because he does have a good catch radius, even though he's a smaller sized guy. He can kind of make difficult catches which I think Jalen Hurts needs guys to be able to do. So I like it. Talk about 21 for us, Ray. I'm not going to pronounce the name this time.
Max Ihanachor, the offensive tackle, goes to the Steelers. I think so. All these guys say BPA, right? Oh, we took the best player on our board, and that's ridiculous. It's just nonsense. This was, I think, the best player on their board if they dinged the next guy for being very old. This was at a position of need. There's a ton of upside here. It's a good, solid organization. We don't know about Broderick Jones and his recovery from the neck injury that he suffered and any potential setbacks there that could have sort of accelerated the need to draft someone like Ihanachor. But he has absolutely all the tools, the length, the footwork, the athleticism. And yeah, I think it's great for the Steelers. We'll see if it's a trial by fire thing for Ihanachor if he starts right away. But I think long-term, this is a fantastic pick for them. To get someone like this in the 20s is awesome.
Awesome. I think the only knock I'll say is they've taken 3 offensive tackles in the first round in 3 years. So eventually you need to get it right. And you also need to be a team that can develop players not in the first round on the offensive line. So you got to figure that out. I think the new head coach definitely will. Akeem Messidor at 22 to the Chargers. I talked about how much I liked Messidor. He's an older prospect. I don't think the Chargers really care about that. And I think that's a team that makes sense to make this pick, right? They have Khalil Mack on the team, right? They're riding with older guys, and that's okay, right? I think this is a guy that can step in and make an impact immediately. I would say stock up for sure for Messidor. That's just my opinion.
He needs to make an impact immediately. He's already 20. He's almost at second contract age. He has to.
Dude, they get his prime year on a rookie contract. That's perfect.
Yeah, and then he'll be looking to resign. He's already 29 years old, so we'll see how that works out. But yeah, he has to start right away. Harbaugh doesn't care. Harbaugh, asterisk, won a national championship there with one of the oldest teams in college football history. So there's that.
So Malachi Lawrence to the Cowboys at 23. I'm obviously going to let you talk about this more. Just really quick, the reason this one felt a little strange to me, Donovan Ezraku you got last year in the second round, and he looked really good, really promising edge rusher, but a toolsy guy that needed refinement. And I feel like you went back to that well again. Is it because it worked, or is it because you guys didn't take one early enough? I don't know. You tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think if you could just stack toolsy guys, I mean, you might as well just do it at premium position. So they still need pass rush help, even as Zaraku develops and hits. They may bring back Jadeveon Clowney. We're not sure, but they lost some depth there. Rashawn Gary,
Rashawn
not
Gary, man.
yeah, okay. He's a 5 tech. He's not an edge guy, really. He's going to line up on the inside of the tackles and things like that. So Malachi Lawrence, the guy they like, he's a natural pass rusher. So now you have 2 natural pass rushers on the edge that are young that you can sort of build around over the next few years. And given that they do have Gary, so again, I just mentioned their roles are going to be different, right? You have Ezraku. Lawrence is not there to be the main guy right off the bat. So you can allow him some time to, kind of come in on just passing downs and those situations and kind of get his feet under him before really taking off. But he's a really natural pass rusher with a great feel for things in the pass game. Really needs to improve his run defense, but he's got the tools that are there. And I think for the first time in a very long time, the Cowboys have a pretty good situation at defensive coordinator downstream from there. And they could take a guy like this and really develop him properly, which has been missing for several years now.
Okay, 24, the Browns took Casey Concepcion. I wasn't a huge Concepcion fan, so I don't want to judge it too much because a lot of people like him. He had a really early breakout age, which is typically a good sign of success. But to me, it's a little redundant, right? It's a guy that gets open similarly to how Jerry Jeudy does, although not at that level, obviously. I don't know how to feel. You tell me.
You also forgot to mention that they both have like issues with drops. And that's the big thing with Concepcion is all the issues with drops. So yeah, now you got 2 of those guys. I like it for the Browns. I don't like it for Concepcion because, again, I don't trust their quarterbacks. Like, it's just going to be anemic because of the quarterback situation. And who trusts the Browns to get it right even next year? Oh, well, next year's class is stronger. You know how many draft classes we've said that about the Cleveland Browns dating back to like the 90s?
Yeah.
So at this point, I have to see it to believe it at this point. But I like Concepcion for the Browns. Even if 24 might be a little bit rich for me, I get it. But I'm not sure I like it for him.
Okay. Dylan Thieneman goes 25 to the Bears. That's about the range that I had kind of put him in. I know you were a little higher on him, but I hate it because I think Ben Johnson is just now on a run of like making really good selections. And this is a really good selection for them. I think definitely stock up for Dylan Thieneman as well, because he goes to a defense that now has added a lot of talent and it's getting to be a good, solid all around team. And that's, again, when you're a Packer fan, that's an issue when the team in your division starts to make the right draft picks. That's a little scary. I think it's a perfect fit for that Bears defense. It adds a little bit of that personality that they're trying to add. It's tough as a Packers fan to see that happen.
Yeah, I think they've got the foundation mostly complete on the offensive side of the ball, and now they're starting to add those pieces on defense. They're building something positive there. Thieneman and Brisker, I'm a fan of that.
All right, Keelan Rutledge at 26 to Houston Texans. I love this pick. I know you were high on him, but maybe not quite thinking he was a first-round pick. But you look at what the Texans needed and how their offensive line had really started to crumble apart over the last few years. Last year, they added a couple guys to make it better at tackle, but they needed to fix that interior. And I think Rutledge does a really good job of that. The most important thing for the Texans is getting that offensive line fixed so that CJ Stroud, their franchise quarterback, has a chance. And again, I think for Keelan Rutledge, it's a great stock up for him. He now has a first-round pedigree, and he goes to a situation where he is seen as a foundational piece for that offensive line for years to come.
I think it's an underrated storyline how early some of these offensive linemen are going compared to where they may have been projected previously. But yeah, huge need filled for the Texans. So they needed this desperately. So stock up to them if he was their top guy.
Chris Johnson goes cornerback from San Diego State at 27 to the Dolphins. I had mentioned during our pre-draft episode that was a prospect I didn't have a chance to watch the tape of. The reason being is because he wasn't high enough on consensus lists for me to warrant it as part of our initial evaluations. The Dolphins taking him at 27 in the first round, again, feels like a little bit of a reach, right? And especially a Dolphins team that doesn't need to be reaching at this point. Definitely concerning to me with Chris Johnson. Why don't you move on to Caleb Lomu, offensive tackle that gets drafted at 28 to the Patriots?
Yeah, look, Patriots need offensive line. and they get another athletic piece here after that. Really is what you don't want to say cost them the Super Bowl because they were just outclassed from the start, but that was the biggest weakness between them and a championship, despite how far they got last year. So keep adding to that foundation on the offense. We'll see what they do on the outside, but yeah, they needed this here. Probably the last offensive tackle slash lineman name that was commonly referenced in the first round, and they get him at 28. So good for them.
Keep it going. Go with Peter Woods, who goes to the Kansas City Chiefs at 29, a trade up to get him.
Yeah, another one here. I think this was the right range for Peter Woods. I think some of the initial projections were a little bit high, but Delane and Woods, you're kind of stacking the foundation now on defense again. If you can, you get Mahomes back, you kind of right the ship on offense. You fill the running back need, so you have your running game with Kenneth Walker from free agency there. So again, you're trying to just sort of get back to where you were a couple of years ago. It's not as if the roster has fully aged out. So if you get two foundational pieces here on the defensive line and at cornerback in the secondary there, I think you're well on your way to doing that. So I think it was a really good complimentary pick for the Chiefs. And so I know you touched on Omar Cooper at 30 here previously, so I know you're a big fan if you have anything to add there, but the third Jets first round pick.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it's stock up for all 22, but stock down for traditional fantasy, right? And that's the difference in this game. You're going to see those differences. I think it's going to work really well for him on the Jets from all 22, but maybe you're not getting the yards and receptions that you'd want for traditional fantasy. Keldrick Falk, your guy, goes at 31 to the Titans. Tell me what you think.
Told you they were going to get a premier defensive lineman in the draft. We just all thought it was going to be in the top 5 and not at 31. No. So Keldrick Falk, he's athletic, he's big, he's long, but man, he's so raw. He needs time. But the Titans, even if he has a big role early on, they got time. They're not trying to get over the hump right now. They're not contending for a championship right now. So if you have the talent, get the young player in there into your organization and just let him develop with all the other young players that you're going to be developing now. So we're looking at the foundation of the Titans, and they're all like 2 to 3-ish years away between Cam Ward, now Carnell Tate. Now you add Keldrick Falk on the defensive side of the ball. You're building, or you're adding your cornerstone pieces for the next phase of your franchise. And that phase isn't going to begin till 2028, let's say. So the rawness of Keldrick Falk shouldn't bother you at this point. So I'm not too worried about that right now. I think for the Titans, it makes sense, even if it's still a little rich for where I would, take him in sort of this ambiguous drafting scenario here. I think it's fine fit for the Titans.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but stock up, and it's going to a Robert Saleh defense who knows how to use weapons. Maybe you're not starting them right now. Maybe you're not starting them next year either. But in 3-4 years, you hope that this starts to pay dividends for you. Last pick of the first round was Jadarian Price, goes to the Seahawks at 32, running back out of Notre Dame, the second running back out of Notre Dame. Ray, we were both a little bit down on Jadarian Price, right? I think we had him 4 or 5 on our big boards. But he goes to Seattle. And I had tried to pitch Ray, like, let's not even do a running back episode, or at least let's not do it till after the draft, because location, landing spot means everything for running back. Jadarian Price now has a first-round pedigree to a Super Bowl team with a great offensive line. Stock goes way up for Jadarian Price. As the GM, would that be the move I have made? Probably not, right? But it was the one they made, and I think it's, again, for the player, it's great.
Yeah, I thought they might trade back and get him more at like 38, 36, 37, like just, into the second round and try to recoup something, because first round pick is a little rich for Jadarian Price. We went over that, but like I said, it's the 80-20 rule, and 80% of the running back position is based on where you land, and his 80% is way better than almost everybody else in the league now because of that landing spot in Seattle. So stock way up for Jadarian Price, and the Seahawks are going to keep on humming. This fits them pretty well.
Okay, Ray, last thing before we go, what are you most excited to see in the second round of the NFL draft?
I think it's going to be a run on defensive, some of the top corners and defensive linemen. So I'm looking at Caden McDonald's probably going to go early here. Guys like Colton Hood as well. I think they're going to fly off the board, and then you might start to see a run on linebacker a little bit later. But yeah, day 2, still a lot of good, talented names on the board. It doesn't stop from round 1. Round 1 gets all the hype in the pub, but No, man. Really, day three is the meat of this whole thing. But day two, too, this is where you kind of stack and complement your big investments, and that's what gets you over the hump for proper team building. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. Can't wait. It's only a few hours away here. We didn't do the whole middle of the night recap show like some others do. We just wanted to sleep on it a little bit. Get let this sink in, digest, get something out to you real quick here in the afternoon, and then we'll see you all again day 2 and 3.
All right, my one prediction before we go, Jermod McCoy to the Packers in the second round. Everybody have a
Oof.
great draft night. I am looking forward to watching round 2 and 3. We love you all. Again, thank you for all the support you gave us during pick pool registration. We're so happy that you guys enjoyed it. Like and subscribe. Have a great rest of your day.